take forever. Do you guys broadcast yours to YouTube too, Xbot, or
Yeah, yeah.
it's just to YouTube, right?
Yeah, that's kind of why we do the pregame on the podcast, because like at first, we want to talk to everybody that supports us and everything like that. Let them know that we're like real human beings, all
Yeah,
that good stuff. But it's also a good way to cover up the lag.
forever. Right. Exactly. All right, we are live, so let's just get right into it. Welcome everyone to a special edition of the Four Guys with Quarters podcast. This is episode 104 for September 13th, 2016. I thought we'd be recording it, but we got the go-ahead from the man himself to do it live, and that man is the voice of Master Chief, our special guest this week. It's Steve Downs. Welcome, Steve. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with us.
Inferno, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you, man.
We also have another guest that's not usual on the panel, but fills in on these special occasions. We've got Xbot448, quite possibly the biggest Halo fan I know, perfect for this kind of interview. So welcome, Xbot.
Thank you, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Steve, again, thank you for coming in. I can't wait to hit you with some questions, man.
I'm all ears.
We've got the regular cast as well. I'll try to keep the introduction short. The man who's been here 104 straight times, ZPCI Assassin, what's up?
Hello.
We've got Taylor, who hopefully her boss doesn't watch this because she's supposed to be working.
I got like 20 vials of blood drawn from me. I'm allowed to be home.
And last but not least, we have Italian Clowns. What's up, bud?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Nothing much, man. We're here to, do this special interview. A lot of people, don't really, I hate to say it, but don't really respect people that do voice acting, but they really should. And, Master Chief would not be Master Chief without this lovely voiceover radio veteran voice of Steve Downs. So we thought we'd get him on, talk to him about what that's like in the industry. I know it's a very important thing, and people kind of overlook it, but if Master Chief didn't have a voice or had a weird voice, you'd probably notice it more and appreciate Steve even more. But yeah, so let's just get into it, Steve. Tell us, a little bit about you, how you got into voice acting, and maybe even how you were approached by Bungie to do this kind of thing.
Well, Inferno, first of all, let me thank you for referring to my voiceover as lovely. That's probably the first time that's happened, but I do appreciate it. My background initially in the entertainment business is radio. I started in radio a long time ago. And when I was in Los Angeles, I was working at a couple stations in LA, and that's when I got into voiceover, mainly commercial voiceover. And in 1997, moved to Chicago to do a morning show here in Chicago at a station called The Drive, which I was at up until a year ago last March when I retired. But while I was doing that, I continued to do voiceover, and Bungie was based in Chicago at the time. And Marty O'Donnell, who of course was the guy who wrote all and performed actually much of the music in the first 3 Halo games and did all the voice casting, used to listen to me on the radio and thought I might, be an interesting voice for this new character. Actually, he cast me in a small role on another PC game about a year before Halo came out. And that was the first time I'd worked with Marty. And then about a year later, he called again and said, asked me to come in and do this voice for Master Chief. Little did any of us know that this would be something that, 15 years later, we're still doing. So,
Right.
I mean, if you would have asked me 15 years ago, do you think you'll be doing this, 2016, I would have thought you were crazy, but here we are. And that's really how the whole thing, as far as Halo is concerned, that's really how the whole thing got started.
Right. And like you said, you can't believe it's even gone this far. And I know, I've done my research and checked out a few of your other interviews, but I want to bring to light for our viewers a story that you told another interviewer about how you did the first game, and then I think it was your nephew or son or somebody was playing the game, and they were asking, who did you do the voiceover for? And you were like, oh, this guy in Halo. You weren't even sure of it. You kind of were playing it off, and look what it's developed into. This huge, franchise, this huge, game industry icon. So even further than you could even believe, right, Steve?
Well, yeah. I mean, what actually happened was I was visiting a friend down in Florida, and I could. This was about the time. This was somewhere between Halo 1 and Halo 2, and I had really forgotten about it, to be honest with you. I mean, when you do voiceover, most of the time, I always say that there's a direct correlation between whatever residual checks you might find in your mail and the success of whatever it was that you did. And in voiceover, as many people know, there are no residuals. You get paid when you do the job, and that's the end of it. So I had really forgotten about it and had moved on. And because I was not involved in the gaming culture at that time, was completely unaware of what was happening as far as the success of Halo was concerned. And so I'm visiting a friend, and his kids were playing the game, and I happened to be walking through the family room, and they're playing, and I said, "Oh, I voiced a character in that game," and they said, "Well, who was it?" And I said, I don't remember his name, but I'm pretty sure he was kind of the main guy." And they said, "Master Chief?" And I said, "Yeah, it was Master Chief." Well, within 10, 15 minutes, there's 35 kids outside the door, all Xbox or a copy of the game or something, wanting an autograph. And it just blew me away. I mean, that was the first time I really knew, that I sort of had a tiger by the tail.
Right. Questions from everyone else? Go ahead, just jump on in.
I do have a question. When you do the voice tracks for Master Chief, has there been any instances where the script has changed and you had to change the emotion of Master Chief and redo the track?
Yeah, probably more in Halo 4 and Halo 5 because Chief's role, especially in Halo 4, was a more involved than it had been in the past, and there would be times when the writers sort of have an idea of what they want, and then we will go into the studio and do it a few times, and it may morph into something else. And so anytime that I've recorded anything for Halo, we've done it many, many times. I don't think there was ever an occasion where they got it on the first take, but sometimes it will change, and they'll hear it differently once I've done it and say, I think we want to approach it this way. I think we want him to be more angry, or I think we want him to be, we want a little more doubt in his voice, or whatever. And sometimes, it gets rewritten on the spot. You may be doing something, and they'll decide that they want it, a completely different way, and they'll actually rewrite it. So that's happened on more than one occasion.
So you're trying to say that even someone like Master Chief can have an outtake?
The outtakes, my friend.
I can just imagine. Steve, if you don't mind, I definitely want to ask this question, because I know Halo went between two developing companies. You had Bungie, with the first three, and then 4 and 5 with 343 Industries. 343 decided to go more emotional, and I wanted to know kind of what was the feel between, making the first three compared to making the last two that had more of Master Chief's emotion and more of his character involved in it. What was that difference between the two companies?
Well, it was in that particular regard, it was a quantum leap as far as I was concerned, and I was very excited about it. When I realized where they were going to go with Halo 4, it was sort of where I had always hoped it would go. I always wanted the relationship between Master Chief and Cortana to go deeper than it had gone, because I always thought one of the beauties of the storyline of Halo is the relationship between those two, and it's a complicated. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Hang on one sec. Can you? I know we're live, but it's my agent. Can you hang on a minute?
All right, take the call. That's fine. Just mute yourself. We'll talk amongst ourselves. This is what live, live recording is all about.
Guys, I do want to say it's really cool that like he was really excited with going into the more like emotional Halo, because I thought with Halo 4, a lot of people complained about the multiplayer. The thing that caught me with Halo 4 was the story, like how emotional it was, the connection between Cortana and Master Chief. That's what drove me to play that game like again and again and again.
And it's weird because that's like what people complain about, is that it left from that action, or quote unquote action, of the first few games, and then 343 brought into a more emotional kind of thing, and people don't want the emotion. I don't really understand that. I personally liked it better myself.
Well, I'm delighted to hear you guys say it. First of all, I apologize for the interruption there, but
Oh, no
business is business.
Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah,
of course.
definitely.
But anyway, I'm thrilled to hear you say that, because that's really where, as I said, I always thought that relationship between those two was much more complicated. And finally, in Halo 4, we got to explore that a little bit. The other cool thing about Halo 4 was it was the first time that Jen Taylor, the voice of Cortana, and I got to work together in the same room at the same time.
Really? It took that long, huh?
Yeah, Jen and I actually didn't even meet until 2010, when we got together for what was it, the 10th anniversary of Halo 1, and they had a big deal out in Seattle, and that's the first time Jen and I had actually met. And since then, we've become very good friends, very close friends, but we had certainly never worked together, and it was exciting to be able to work with her in the studio in more of an ensemble type of arrangement. And I think it certainly helped me to bring out a more emotional side of the Chief than we had done prior to that.
Very, very nice, man.
Taylor, you got anything? I see you waited a bated breath over there.
I'm just shocked that it took 10 years for you to actually meet Jen.
Yeah. To be honest with you, Taylor, that's not unusual. Especially with recording voice for video games, it's more often than not a solitary experience. For most actors, usually you are in a recording studio by yourself, recording your lines, because of the complexities of a video game story. It makes it easier for the producers to be able to put the stuff together, rather than to have you in the room at the same time. Because if we talk over each other and they end up not using that, then they have to re-record it and stuff like that. So it's not really that unusual for us to do that. But they thought, and rightfully so, the guys at 343, because of the emotional nature of the story, thought that they would get more out of us if we were able to do it together, and they were absolutely right.
So you talked about oh, I'm sorry, Taylor. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, like for me, I play Halo for the storyline because I'm terrible at first-person shooters. So I don't play multiplayer.
Good. Well, you and I would do great at Halo, because I'm the world's worst Halo player.
Really? Who would think that, huh?
When Halo 2 came out, I really made a serious attempt at trying to be a little better of a game player, and it just didn't work out. You know what I mean? And I thought, at the time, I thought, look, I'm either going to be able to be decent at this, or not play at all, because I thought there'd be nothing worse than for somebody to see, Master Chief be not very good at Halo. I'd rather not do it at all than to be not very good. And unfortunately, there's been a couple of occasions, and the first time I ever made an appearance on behalf of Master Chief was down in Florida at a GameStop opening. And the guy, I said, I agreed to do it, but I said, there's two things I don't do. I don't dress up as the character, and I don't play the game. And they ignored those two things. I mean, I didn't dress up as the character, but unbeknownst to me, they were having a contest, the winner of which would play me at Halo. And
oh no!
And I told him, I said, dude, I'm not any good. I don't play. And they said, don't worry about it. We've rigged it. They put it on something called the Juggernaut setting, and they said that all you got to do is basically hold the controller in your hands and hit the buttons, and nobody will be able to kill you. Well. it didn't work out that way because an 11-year-old girl mopped up the floor with me in about 15 seconds. And you've never been more humiliated than by an 11-year-old Halo player who looks at you like, wow, you're Master Chief, huh? Ooh.
You just have to tell her I do better actually in person. You got to put the AR in my hands in person, and I could do what I got to do.
That would have been a great line. I wish I would have thought of that. Actually, I just went to my WC Fields and said, "Get out of here, kid! You bother me."
So you talked about like the transcending to the more emotional connection between Master Chief and Cortana, and in Halo 5, there's the focus isn't as much on Chief, right? So going into Halo 5, were did you still have the same excitement for doing it for Halo 5, or was it is it lost on you? I don't want to say lost on you, but are you thinking about getting away from it now because of how the story is going, or?
Oh no, not at all. And the funny thing was, even though in the actual game, the Chief is a little bit less of a role, I actually did almost as much work on Halo 5 as I did on Halo 4 because there was a lot of other sort of ancillary things that we did outside of the game that were fun. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that, a lot of promotional work and that kind of thing, and some things that were some trailers that were made and things like that. So I actually ended up doing almost as much work on Halo 5 as I did on 4. It's just that most of it didn't end up in the game. It ended up in other areas. So I still had fun with it. And again, I really liked the story. I liked that, that they were bringing in, new characters and Chiefs, where things were going or where they were trying to go, at least with Cortana, and what happened with all of that. I still found very interesting and very exciting, and it certainly sets us up for a very exciting next chapter.
Which, of course, you know all about, but can't say anything about. Perfect.
I'd be happy to tell you, but I'd have to kill all of you. And,
oh, wow.
To some people that might actually be worth it.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, throwing it out there.
I've said that before, and I get that reaction. They'll be, okay, go ahead.
Now, Steve, I do want to know something when it came to Halo 5, because there were people out there that, with talking about the story of Halo 5, they thought it kind of had like that premature ending and stuff like that. I want to know, like, how you personally thought the entire story of Halo 5 up to the ending. What did you think about it? Do you think like it stopped prematurely? Do you think it was a nice flow to it? Just let us know how you think about that story in Halo 5, man.
Well, it's interesting because I remember hearing a lot of the same kind of stuff at the end of Halo 2.
Oh yeah.
People thought Halo 2 ended prematurely, and were there was a lot of complaining about that. But that's really what that's kind of what when you have a continuing story like that, there's got to be some point where you say, well, you'll just have to stay tuned. And that's sort of what happened with Halo 5. I thought it ended, I don't know how else we could have ended it other than to literally end it. And quite frankly, none of us are ready to do that yet. So there is still a great story out there that needs to be finished. And, I thought I thought they went as far as we could go, and sort of left it in more or less a cliffhanger, kind of situation. So but I'm certainly aware of the fact that a lot of people thought, that it was cut off too soon. But I got to say, I think that's, we went as far as we could go with it, and you got to stop it at some point. And again, say, wait till next time,
Yeah, exactly. I actually thought, like, with the ending, with Dr. Halsey and the Master Chief finally getting back together again, on the alien planet saying Helios. I thought that was an awesome moment, and then to show like the actual ship like on the run from Cortana. I'm sorry guys out there watching live if there's any spoilers. This game has been out for a while.
Yeah, it's fine.
You should have hit the story already, but
Yeah.
just one more question for me. I'm trying not to hog up all the time here, but when it comes to the other Spartans, because now you have Chief's blue team, you have that brand new Spartan team of Team Osiris. How do you think all these Spartans? How do you think it's going to change like the dynamic of Halo going forward?
Well, I think it will change it inevitably. I don't know that I can tell you how it will change it, but when you have, some brand new and very important characters introduced in the story, and along with with Agent Locke, it has to change the dynamic going forward. I don't know that you'd have to ask the writers how that's going to happen. But I think your suggestion that it will change the overall dynamic of the Halo story is probably correct.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to poke and prod. I was actually trying to get your thoughts on that. To be very honest with you, because to me, it's a brand new thing. Finally, Master Chief has friends besides just Cortana and occasionally talking to Halsey. He's got a crew of people that actually have his back. For once, I mean, he hasn't had that before.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, he's been pretty much a loner up until really Halo 5, and now he's got people that presumably he can count on, and that they can count on him. And you're right. But you said something earlier that I think is not. How can I say it? May not necessarily be true, and that is the relationship between him and Halsey. Whether I would call that a friendly relationship or not, I think is questionable.
Oh yeah, it's definitely on eggshells and broken glass and stuff like that. But it just seems like deep down there is some type of care there. There's a lot of negativity put, layers of really bad things put on top of it.
Yeah.
But it just to see the look on Halsey's face, and by the way, 343 did an absolutely amazing job, with your voice and then the cinematics that were involved in between the missions. Absolutely incredible job. But it looks like there's something there.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting relationship. She's the one that changed his life in a very, very, very dramatic way when he was a child. And I thought it was interesting when the two of them finally met on screen. It didn't feel like it was. I mean, I think she was excited to see him. Mm-hmm. Whether the feeling was mutual with Master Chief, I think is let's put it this way. Maybe that's one time when it was a good thing you couldn't see what was under the helmet.
I was gonna say I wanted to see what was behind that amber visor at that point in time, man.
Yeah. I did too.
That kind of leads into my next question. It's like a perfect segue. How do you voice a man that has no face, no real identity? It's a brand new IP, and you're going into it. Obviously, you had done voice acting before. That's how they plucked you out of that scene, like you said earlier. So with voice acting somebody that you can't even see their voice or emotion or anything like that, how difficult is that? How difficult was it for you?
It's that's a good question. I just remember the initial conversation that I had with Marty in describing the character, because when I went in for the sessions for Halo 1, they didn't even have a mock-up of what he looked like. So they couldn't even show me a picture of him.
Oh, wow.
And so it was really just a discussion between Marty and I, and the way he phrased it was, he told me the basic storyline of Halo and the Halo universe and who Master Chief was and how he got to where he was and all that. But then he said, he's a loner. He's very much of a military man, but he's very much on his own. And he said, think of Clint Eastwood, when Clint Eastwood used to do the spaghetti westerns and all that.
Mm-hmm,
You know, he was a man of few words as well, and usually when he spoke, somebody got killed. And he said, you know, that's kind of like Master Chief. He's sort of like that way. He doesn't talk a lot, but when he does, it's usually means a lot. And so I kind of went into it with that sort of in my head, in terms of how to present him. And then we refined it. I mean, I didn't get it on the first take, that's for sure. And I worked with Marty and Joe Staten and these guys who helped me to match that voice with what they had in their heads about what Master Chief sounded like. And eventually we got there.
Mm-hmm. Basson, what do you got, bud? Haven't heard you yet, so.
At the end of Halo 4, we got to see Master Chief's eyes. Do you think we'll ever see his actual face, or do you not want to see him?
I've always preferred that we don't see him, and it's really because of this. I think one of the interesting things about the Halo story is the fact that you have a main character whose face you never see. And the beauty of that is that, if you could look into his visor, you would see a reflection of yourself. And I think that's one of the beauties of the game, is that really the gamer is Master Chief. That's really, it certainly was in the beginning, and is that you were the chief and you were dictating his actions and his successes and failures. And by not having a face to it, you could put your own face there. And I think that's one of the beauties and perhaps one of the reasons why Master Chief is such an iconic character, because his physical appearance is not predetermined. It's whatever he looks like, whatever you want him to look like. And I like that, and I hope that they continue that. Who knows, though? I mean, they may decide at some point to actually, give him a face, as it were. But if they were asking my opinion, I would prefer that he keep the helmet on.
Right.
Does it ever get awkward for you to go back and play through hearing your voice?
It's not awkward, but I promise you that I don't think I've ever, because obviously when the game comes out, I watch all the cinematics and it's fascinating. I mean, it's like a mini movie to me, because you just put all those scenes together and it really is like it's like watching a movie. And but what happens to me when I watch it is I just keep thinking how I might have done it differently.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we did Halo 2, I had a cold through through all of the sessions. Every time I hear Halo 2, I hear myself, with a cold. And I'm like, gee, I wish I could have done it when I wasn't sick. But and the other day, I told that story in front of Jen one time, and she said, I had a cold too. And so we were both sick when we did that. But I think it's just it's what actors do. You look at your own work and you think about how you could have done it better or would have done it differently, or when you see it all put together, you may have approached it differently. But at the end of the day, you leave it up to the writers and the producers, and if they like it, and most importantly, if the fans like it, then you leave well enough alone.
Well, Steve, that's kind of like the moniker of a great artist. I mean, I've been drawing since I was like 4 years old, and I've had people tell me about my drawings all the time and how great they are. But for the artist, you always you have the ability to look back and say, well, that arm's not quite right and this and that. But like you said, as long as the audience, the fans, of course, the editor and stuff, as long as they say it's good to go, right?
Absolutely, and you're right. That at the end of the day, that's what is most important. But you can't help it. You can't help it saying, I would have liked to have tried that a different way and all that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it is. At some point you got to wrap it up, or else the thing never gets done. So you gotta at some point you got to let it go. And overall, I think the finished product on all of the games has been fantastic. I mean, you took some you were talking about how cool the cinematics look and the visuals look in Halo 5. It's, there's usually about a 3-year period between games, and it's always fascinating to me to see the great technological leaps from one game to the next in all facets of how the game is put together. The things that are available, today that weren't available 3 years ago, and that kind of thing. And yeah, the look of the game is it's great. And when we did Halo 4, is the first time I actually got to see a lot of the visuals that were in progress. They weren't done, but they would show them to me just so I could have a reference for what was happening in the scene that we were recording. And to watch these things sort of get put together and develop from one stage to the next is amazing. I mean, the guys who work on this game are just incredible. The work that goes into it is amazing, and I sit back in awe of how the artistry and the technical ability of the guys who put this stuff together, and women too, by the way, is just absolutely humbling.
Hmm. And you talk about the polish, about the visuals especially, and we've obviously talked a lot about your voice acting and how polished that is. But another thing that everyone talks about when they talk about the Halo franchise, about something being iconic, is the soundtrack or the score, which of course is obviously intertwined with voice acting. Correct? Or do you think that
Yep.
the score really has an effect on how you do the voice acting? Do you get to hear that kind of stuff beforehand, or how does that work out?
I don't get to hear a lot of the score because usually the voice recording, the voiceover, and the music are some of the last elements to be put into the game. So sometimes in the case of the music, it's just not ready to be heard yet. But I have been, and then having a relationship with Marty during the Bungie years, and Marty is first and foremost a musician, and so you got to hear some of his work that has such an indelible stamp on the Bungie Halo games. But what they did musically with Halo 4 and 5. I think the music is incredible, just as it is in a major motion picture. I mean, I was listening to an interview the other day with a guy who scores for motion pictures, and it's critical sometimes. It's trying to find the balance between when the music is just right and when the music needs to sort of advance the story, and when you need to pull the music back, when the music can be too much. Sometimes, they'll put in music because they didn't do a very good job in the story or the presentation of advancing the storyline. You know what I mean? I mean, we've probably all seen movies like that where it was the music that got you to the next level when it really should have been the story. I don't think that's been the case at all with all of the Halo games. I think they've only enhanced the story and not sort of overcompensated for it.
I was going to ask you, Steve, if you have a favorite Master Chief line.
Well, no, personally, I don't. My favorite lines are your favorite lines. And I don't mean that as a cop-out, but it's just that it's really the fans that have determined what the iconic lines are. And, so I go by them. We had a lot of fun with Halo 4, especially during the closing scenes of that between, Cortana, Jen and myself doing that, the part when Cortana dies. And, those were the most emotional, some of the most emotional work I've ever done as a voice actor. And, so those were some of my favorite moments. But it's really the fans that determine, what the best lines are. And they will let me know in no uncertain terms.
Yo, Steve, I just want to say, because you pulled up, that whole thing at the end of Halo 4, I just want to let you know how good you guys did with that, because it put my 12-year-old son into tears the first time he saw that.
Put me in tears.
That's
it was that emotional.
Thank you very much. Well, it was for us too, and I always remember, and I've told this story before too, but it bears repeating, is that when Jen and I were doing that, when we got to the point where basically she's saying goodbye, I told. First of all, I asked that everybody. I always refer to it as my one diva moment, where I asked that all non-essential personnel who were there in the studio when we were doing it leave. At that time, you always, of course, you have the director and you have the writers are used sometimes there, and sound people and whatnot. And then when we were doing Halo 4, they had a film crew there that was shooting us while we recording for a little making of piece they were going to do. And I just asked that all of the people who didn't absolutely have to be there leave, because it was going to be a very emotional thing, and it was going to be difficult for me, and I wanted it to that would make it easier. So Jen and I are in the room together, and I turned to her and I said, "Look, Jen, if and you got to remember at the time, it's not like we were best friends. We had just met not too long before we did this." And I said, "Jen, I may reach out for your hand while we're doing this. So if I do, don't freak out or anything." And she said, "Oh, that's cool." So we got to that point, and Jen held out her hand to me for me to take her hand while I was recording it. And I was so sort of inside myself that I didn't reach for her hand. So when we got done recording it, she looked at me like, "Dude, you left me hanging." For you, and I got nothing. It was funny. It was a funny moment, but I thought, that's probably how the real Master Chief would have reacted anyway, because that was the challenge of doing those scenes, is that this is a character who's not used to showing his emotion, and he was feeling obviously very emotional about losing this entity that had become, that was so intertwined with his own self. And it was difficult for Master Chief to express that. And so any difficulty that I had in doing it, I hoped anyway, played into the character.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, not for anything, but what you did with that scene was absolutely amazing, because, with all that emotion and everything, is like, no, we're going to bring you back. No, like see Master Chief just kind of like block off what's actually happening and saying, "No, you're going to come with me." And
right.
Incredible.
Well, and it was, this was one of the few times in his life that he could not control the situation.
Yeah.
And that's what his struggle was, is that he couldn't make this thing happen, and he wasn't used to being in that kind of position.
Right. I want to take some questions really quick from the chats before we have to let you go, Steve.
Sure.
In the Twitch chat, the One Edge 1970 wants to know. He says, "Ask Steve, do people know who don't know his voice ever say, or don't know that it's you, say, do I know that voice? His wife just came in and said, I know that voice from Halo, and knew it was you right away." Do you get that often, or?
Not often, and you can probably tell from our conversation right now that my normal speaking voice, is not the voice of Master Chief. I mean, I don't go up to McDonald's and say, "I'd like a double cheeseburger with fries and make it quick." That's not usually what I do. But sometimes it happens. And it really depends on the person. If you're a gamer, I might get recognized from time to time, but it doesn't happen as much as you might think.
Also, I never wanted to work at McDonald's so much in my life right now.
Have you ever tried a kind of follow-up to that question, and hearing you do that McDonald's thing? Have you ever tried asking Cortana on your Windows 10 PC in that voice anything and see what happens?
No, but you know what? That's a great idea, and I will try that. Yeah. I don't know if I'm breaking any protocol here, but I'm kind of an Apple guy, so.
Oh wow.
but you can. I think you can download Cortana into an Apple phone. I think.
Yes, you can.
Yep.
Yes. So maybe I'll try that and see what happens if I talk to her in a Master Chief voice, what she would do. That would be funny. I'll let you know how that works out.
All right, good. Yeah, definitely let us know. We'd love to hear it. Another question from the YouTube chat from one of our followers, Pelvic Gaming. She asks, what do you think of teabagging? Are you familiar with what teabagging is, and what do you think of teabagging? Is it funny or disrespectful?
Well, geez, how do I answer that question without? I think it's funny. Let's put it that way. I'm afraid if I get too far down this line of questioning, it may get a little uncomfortable. But no, I think it's funny.
Biggest teabagger I know is Assassin, right, Clowns?
Hey,
Yeah.
hey.
Steve, every time Assassin plays me in Halo, especially if we're doing like Infected or something, he tries to find a way to teabag me after he affects me or kills me. He's just that good.
Yeah, I guess that says something about you, Assassin. You know what that might be. I'll leave that up to you. But.
Oh, and he also always takes Master Chief, and when we do like the story, he's got to be Master Chief.
Yep. Gotta be
No
Master
other
Chief.
character for him.
Or Buck in 5.
There you go. Well, he's got taste. What can I tell you?
There you go. And then one last question for you, Sobsky117. I know we kind of touched on this, but he wants to know how exactly do you get in the right state of mind to do an emotional scene as Master Chief? What goes into that process?
Well, that's a good question. You know, one of the great things that's been a great help to me, certainly, with Halo, is that there is this huge wealth of material outside the game that you can draw on. You know, with all the books and all that sort of thing that flesh out this story. And I relied on that a lot, especially, you know, when the Fall of Reach, when the book came out. That was this beautiful backstory for me to be able to access, to really understand who this character was, because, you know, as we all know, you know, Master Chief doesn't necessarily speak a lot. So you got to be able to put as much into his lines as you can, and to be able to understand who the character is important. I mean, it's important for any actor doing any work, but it certainly helped me a lot to be able to understand what his emotional backstory was. And when I record Halo, and I got this from a voice teacher that I had years ago, who told me that whatever it takes to help you get into the place you need to be, whether it's doing video game work or if it's doing commercial work, whatever it takes for you to get where you need to be, you should do that. If it means wearing a particular shirt or a particular pair of jeans. And for me, with Master Chief, it was a particular old pair of cowboy boots that I've had for, 30 years.
Really?
And when I record Halo, I always wear those boots and no other time.
Wow.
And it's a physical manifestation. I mean, I can't put on Mjolnir and I can't wear a helmet when I'm doing it. So I have to have something that says to me, you are now going into his world. You're leaving your world and you're going into his world. And the physical manifestation of that for me is an old funky pair of cowboy boots. And that tells me, you know, I'm no longer Steve Downs, now I'm Master Chief. And it works. The boots are a little funky, but, you know.
Yeah, they don't really fit into the Halo universe as I know it, Steve.
I don't know. They're pretty badass boots, though, really.
Well, I was going to say that actually does really make sense, because if we go back, you know, to earlier in the interview, you talked about the analogy between like Clint Eastwood with the spaghetti westerns and stuff like that. So I could definitely see that working.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good connection. Yeah, that's exactly, you know, it's whatever helps you, you know, get to where you need to be. It doesn't matter what it is. It just, you know, if it says to you, now you are inhabiting a different world, then that's what you use.
Mm-hmm.
Any final questions from anyone else before we let Steve go? I know he had a time constraint here and we're gone a little over it. We thank you, Steve.
Sure.
I do. I have a couple quick questions. One, do you have like in your house like a Halo room or Halo collectibles, statues, anything that you've
Yeah,
collected throughout the years?
yeah, I kind of do. And it's kind of getting taken over a little bit. No, I got it. You know, I mean, especially the 343 people have been very cool about, you know, getting me, you know, some of the Master Chief paraphernalia, if you will. And yeah, I got it. My office is overflowing with stuff, and now it's starting to go down into the game room, and my wife is beginning to ask questions. So,
I also wanted to ask you, have you ever like met with Phil Spencer or any of the top guys at Xbox and just threw on your Master Chief voice randomly in a conversation?
I can't. I don't. You know, geez, I mean, this was a few years ago, and I can't tell you who it was, but it was some pretty higher ups in 343 and Microsoft who asked me to do their voicemail greetings.
Awesome.
So you know, yeah, so there was a few of those people that I've done that kind of stuff for, but it's been I'm not trying to be coy about it. It's been a while, and I can't remember who I did the work for. But so yeah, I can tell you this: some of the most rewarding stuff. The people at 343 are very into not only the community of gamers, but they're also into sort of giving back, and they do a lot of charity work, and occasionally get me involved in doing some stuff with some charities for people who are less fortunate than us, and are huge gamers and things like that. And so that's the real reward, when you can do call up a Make-A-Wish kid or something and do a little Master Chief riff with him, and it makes their day. And there's nothing more rewarding than be able to do that. And that's sort of the overall picture for me, is that this has been a tremendous ride for me. I mean, this game and my participation in it has changed my life, all for the better. And I have not only the fans to thank for that. And so I go to conventions and stuff like that and get to meet a lot of people. And it's all, I'm always so grateful that the gaming community has embraced Halo the way they have. And, that's the kick for me, is to watch it mean so much to other people.
And Steve, that leads me into one of my last questions I had for you. And I don't know if you can, and it's up to you, of course, and I respect it either way.
Uh-oh.
But would you be able to say anything like, hey, this is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief, and you're watching Four Guys with Quarters?
This is Spartan 117, and you're watching Four Guys with Quarters. Pay attention and finish the fight. Chief out.
Wow, that was epic,
That
dude.
is awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, we're definitely using that. I'm splitting that right out of the video and using that. Wow, Steve, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Taylor or Assassin, any last questions before we end this?
That just ruined everything
I know.
else for me.
Same. All right, well, Steve,
One more thing. Yeah, for anybody listening or at home, anywhere on the road, Steve, are there any upcoming conventions that you'll be doing where people might be able to find you at?
Yeah, there's one in February, actually, hold on a second, in Branson, Missouri, I believe. I think it's called Vision Con. Let me look it up here while we're talking. There's a couple that may happen before the end of the year, but the only ones I'm sure of are the one in, I'm just going to my calendar here, see if I can pull it up real quick. Let's see. Where is it? Oh yeah, VisionCon in Branson, Missouri. I'm looking forward to that one. And then there's another one next May in the Detroit area. That I don't know if that's been finalized yet, but I have a Facebook page, and that stuff always ends up there. So if you go to Steve, there's two Facebook pages, but one is a fan page, and I put all my upcoming convention appearances there, and then I have a Twitter feed, which is Steve Downs 117, and I try to keep you up to date on all things Master Chief as it relates to me anyway. And, any appearances that I have coming up always end up there. So check those out if you can.
Nice.
Absolutely. All right, Steve, thank you so much. Sorry we went over a little bit, but it was an awesome interview. And, you gave us
so much fun. That's all, that's all I can say.
Absolutely. Yeah, we thank you so much. And if you guys want to check out some of his other voiceover work, you can go to stevedownsvo.com. He has some of his other voiceover work for some commercials and stuff like that, so you can check it out there. He just told you how to get in touch with them on Twitter and on Facebook. And for us individually, our names have been cycling below our videos, so you guys can get in touch with us individually. And for our podcast, you can go to Twitter, 4GWQ Podcast. I'd say just go there and follow us. That's where you can probably get all the rest of our information. If you guys have been watching live on YouTube, Twitch, Beam, thank you guys so much for checking it out, and thanks for making this interview even greater with all your fan questions and stuff. We really appreciate all that support. So yeah, other than that, we're gonna head out of here. And again, Steve, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. I know you have a busy schedule, especially with that call from your with your agent mid show.
Yeah, that was money on the phone.
All right.
I had a lot of fun. It was a blast talking to all of you, and thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll catch you out next week. I don't know if we'll have a show on Thursday, but we'll talk about that. We'll let you guys know when. All right, see you guys later. Peace out.
See you
Later.
Bye.